podcast.
Good morning. Welcome to the BrokeMan's podcast. It's me and Levi. And today I am extremely grateful for the extent of communication. Communication goes beyond what we think it really goes to. There's so much communication involved with everyday life. Body language, verbal, it's everything.
Today, I am thankful for the ability to get things checked off of my to-do list and that feeling of accomplishment when you're going through that stuff. I'm also thankful for friends and family being in my life.
We are going to shoot a couple of affirmations. I can breathe. I am here. I am grateful. I am alive.
I am strong. I am present. I am able.
I like that. All right, something that's been on our radar and on our minds collectively, as you know, we work together and we interact a lot as men. And we've noticed that loneliness plays a big part in, would you say, everyone's life?
Absolutely. I think it's become an epidemic of a sense. I think most people at some point have felt loneliness in some way, shape, or form.
Loneliness goes far. It's not just one thing you can pinpoint. It comes from everything in life, everything that you know. You can have a disconnect with people. You can be around as many people as you want and be lonely and feel like you cannot connect with people. But I would like for Levi to take over this because he had some really, really great points about loneliness, which we've both felt recently.
Yeah, absolutely. So first thing is how common it is. Like I said, at some point, most people have felt loneliness at some level. I would say almost everybody has felt it to an extreme level. The different types of loneliness they can vary so much. There's loneliness, like Gary said, when other people are present. That's so common. It's that feeling of your social battery being depleted and you isolating yourself, even in a social situation. Another one can be social media induced loneliness. Social media can trick you, I feel like, into thinking that you're more connected than you are. It's an illusion of connection.
How so?
You're speaking to people, you're technically connecting in some way, but they're not having that personal one-on-one connection where you're able to see, like you said, like the paraverbals and the nonverbals, which I think are important, especially for just everyday life. People need to be able to connect with people in the real world. I think social media can also give people an illusion of what others see as like the ideal lifestyle, and that can cause people to feel isolated and like they're not doing what they need to be doing. That can be a huge factor in that as well. Another one can just be you're not socializing. You're not taking time to go out and do something, which I know can be hard for a lot of people. With loneliness, I think a big thing that people miss is that it can lead to you feeling more anxious and more depressed, which is also going to affect the amount of time you spend going out of your bubble and being more social. So the more lonely you are, the more lonely you're going to continue to enable yourself to be.
How's lonely gotten to you lately?
I would say loneliness has gotten to me lately with, especially one part is the winter months. I know that can be a huge effect on it. Um, being
Absolutely.
being a distance away from my family, just the traveling there and back, that can be a big effect on it, as well as just the hours that we both work can cause a social disconnect from family and friends as well, just because we're busy doing that, and also that's socially draining. So that can be a big factor in that as well. I think a big part of it is recognizing that loneliness and then
Acknowledging it.
acknowledging it. I think that it's not bad to be lonely. It's not bad to be on your own, but what you're doing with that time and how you're using that time is the big factor. If you,
I agree.
Yeah, if you're using that time to grow, or if you're falling back within that time and using it as a place to be lazy and not do anything that you should be doing, not progress in any way. So keeping that in check with your loneliness, I think, is a huge factor.
There was a time, and this was just when winter began. I felt it. I felt like kind of a covering of sadness come upon me, in a way.
Energy, yeah, the
Yeah,
energy changes.
I felt the shift, and you have to be very aware of your own body and your emotions and your feelings when that time comes. And when I felt it, I knew that I had to pay attention to it and change things, change my day-to-day routine, how I wake up in the morning, the different things that I do, rather than wake up and... What are some results of loneliness?
So some results of loneliness that I've seen in my life and I've observed from other people can be a loss of friendship. Loneliness can make people isolate themselves. It can make people colder to their friends and not want that connection that I think is so important and vital for a relationship of any kind. It can affect distance between family members and between yourself and others, and then also just the mental effects of it. They can make you a more anxious person. It can make you a more depressed person. For me personally, I know it makes me like very lethargic. I get very tired and uh, I get in a negative headspace. I'd say that's a big one. So keeping that in check within myself.
We'll go socially when, like you spoke about, getting anxious when you're lonely.
Yeah.
And when you get anxious, sometimes you can overstay your welcome when it comes to places because you don't want to leave because you're afraid that loneliness to kick in again.
Yeah.
Oversharing.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It can lead to the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
opposite end of the spectrum when it comes to socializing. You can overshare and you can overstay your welcome. You can also feel, when you're lonely in a group setting, you can feel very disposable.
Absolutely. Make you very insecure and make you feel like you're not really in the right place, but not knowing what to do in that place as well.
Not seen, not heard. You don't think that you actually matter. You think that if you leave, it wouldn't matter.
And I think a big part of that loneliness too comes from when you are alone, the type of self-talk that you're using, the types of things that you're saying to yourself, and what you're doing with that alone time is so important. If you're constantly, when you are alone, in that negative headspace and not learning to grow as a person, then when you're feeling alone in a social situation, it makes it so much worse for that.
We'll connect it on a personal level. I remember feeling, even in my younger days, going to parties and going other places with friends, and that's the most alone I've ever felt. That's the most disconnected I ever felt. I didn't feel like I had a connection. I didn't feel like anybody saw me. And that loneliness is different and then you start to separate yourself from everyone else, and then you begin to shut down your social life because of it, which creates more loneliness because you feel like nobody sees you or understands you. Then I felt weird. I was like, what is it about me? Why am I so weird? Why do I... Yeah, and now as I'm older, I recognize what it was and what was missing. And self-growth was missing. I didn't realize what was going on. I didn't realize my thought pattern. I was thinking, and my thoughts didn't know where to go.
Was part of that how you felt with that friend group that made you feel alone?
Yeah.
The only reason I asked that
Was
is
part of
because that loneliness feeling you had was part of that due to the friend group that you had during that time, or like the energy that was being produced by them.
It was a few things. One was my past and the trauma that carried, which I never got a safe space to share or be vulnerable and to share those moments, which means I needed deep connection with people. And I didn't have that. It was all superficial, clubs, women, and things of that nature. And it wasn't something I liked. I didn't like going out. I did not. It was a void I was trying to fill, which every time it just is empty. But yes, it was the friends that I was choosing to be around and trying to hang with, and it just didn't work. It
That
didn't work. And
yeah.
I always end up cutting people off and isolating myself in not so good of a way.
That sounds like you mentally came to a realization before you were ready to actually come to that realization to me.
What do you mean?
Like your body making you feel lonely kind of was a way of you realizing that in that situation with those people you were kind of alone in that sense because you didn't really have that
Yeah,
support
I
there.
would watch. I would watch them have conversations. I would watch as we went out with our significant others sometimes, and I still felt alone. I watched the way they move and they spoke, and I was like, something's off.
I've had that too, yeah.
And I don't know how to step away, and I'm just hanging here. Sometimes we'll go out as single men, and they would hit on women and whatnot, and I would sit in the background like I don't want to be here. I would go out and just be antisocial. As crazy as that sounds.
No, you're right. It feels inauthentic.
Yeah, I would sit in the corner like
Yeah,
I don't like this,
absolutely.
but I would still go out.
Yeah, because you're like, well, that's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing.
That's what we do. Yeah, I completely understand that. I can see that as it sound like that to me seems like good loneliness though, because that's loneliness that leads to growth. But
It eventually
it's-
did. Conversations, I felt like an oddball. The way they spoke, it didn't fit with me, but I still went out just to do something. I was trying.
social life.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a way to. I that's a different kind of loneliness too, because that's you're trying to do stuff to not feel alone.
There's so many avenues of loneliness.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can be completely happy, which we'll touch on in the next podcast. You could be completely happy. That's a different question. How do you deal with your loneliness, even at the moment, even in the last couple of weeks per se?
Yeah. I think the first step is realizing.
Yes.
You got to notice that you're in that space before you can move on from it. Next part would be accepting that you are feeling lonely and then figuring out what to do with that time when you're alone. Because there's going to be time when you're alone where you're not going to have a solution for it in the moment. But getting comfortable with that loneliness, I think, is important.
Letting someone know that's in your close circle that you feel lonely. Being able to express yourself and talk to people in a safe space, especially friends, and let them know how you are feeling so you can process and figure out what to do.
Absolutely.
In the midst of your talking. You have to figure things out. Seek friendships, seek your social life.
Absolutely.
I would say.
Yeah. Call your family, call your friends. You can FaceTime them. It's a step closer to that social interaction, and it can help you feel heard.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say those genuine relationships are what are truly going to help you not feel lonely, not the shallow ones or the not so deep relationships that you may have. You're going to find a lot more familiarity and closeness with those closer friends and with those family members that you're close with.
Do not compare yourself to others. And with that, we can move into the social media aspect of feeling lonely and comparing ourselves to others and comparing where our own joy is compared to others and what we see on social media.
Yep, absolutely. I see social media as something that can enable people to have self-induced isolation. It keeps everybody entertained.
Do not be addicted to that loneliness either.
Yeah, because people welcome it, and then that short entertainment feels short, but it's eating away at your life. Slowly but surely, you're losing time that you could be using with your family, with your friends, to help yourself grow, to learn new things. That time is all being wasted to scroll on Instagram or TikTok. And what are you getting from that?
If you are feeling lonely, do not victimize yourself. Realize that you have responsibility for oneself and you have a choice to make. Do not victimize yourself. Go out there and be social. Reach out to a friend. I would say, can I say dive deep into your hobbies?
Yeah, absolutely. Find something that interests you and follow that, pursue that. That's going to help a lot. Even if you're doing a hobby by yourself, it is different from wallowing in self pity and self hatred.
We can at times, I know that loneliness and that feeling sometimes can be addictive, but I've let it go too far sometimes. And it kind of changes your whole personality and thoughts around loneliness. And you start seeking for that self pity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, self pity. When others try and help,
Absolutely.
you don't actually want help. You just want them to keep feeling bad for you.
Yep. And you'll notice it in yourself. Other people will also notice it in you, but you'll deny it. That's a huge thing. So you got to be real and you got to be able to check yourself.
Everybody gets lonely.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are lonely, check yourself and realize that you're lonely. Acknowledge it. And being lonely is okay. Everyone gets lonely.
Yep.
It is what we choose to do with our independence and knowing as a person. It's what we choose to do with that loneliness. Are we going to do something about it, or are we going to turn to victims? Are we going to acknowledge it? Are we going to reach out to others and let them know, like, hey, I'm lonely? You will be surprised by how many of your friends are also lonely. In relationships, out of relationships, in school, doesn't matter. A lot of people get lonely. I have pockets of loneliness.
Yep, absolutely. And in realizing that is the first step to it, and the first step to actually growing and being able to be more free from that feeling and that negative feeling that we all get from being in that headspace as well.
My biggest help has been reaching out for help, reaching out for solid advice. And I mean, like, hey, I need your advice on something. Can I explain it to you? And then I would actually like your advice, realizing that, hey, I don't know everything. I need some help. That's kind of filled those pockets of loneliness along the way, especially at work.
Absolutely.
I
would
come
say,
to you all the time with things like that, like, hey. And it works. It does work. I'm like, okay, I feel included. I feel seen. I feel heard. And it's nice.
Yeah, and you connect as well too with other people, and I think that's so important. My usual paths for when I'm feeling lonely like that, reaching out to friends and family, connecting with nature, I think is a big one for me. Doesn't need to be with people, but just being able to enjoy the sun and enjoy nature, being out in public. It's all stuff that can help with that headspace that you may be in that I think comes with loneliness, which I think can make people feel more lonely.
If you're a man and you are feeling lonely, seek therapy or seek mentors or a solid friend group.
Absolutely.
Don't be afraid of that. As harsh as it is, as much as society tells us and pushes us towards the other way of being lonely and doing it alone and being all these other, they switch the version and definition of masculinity, but go seek friendship. There's nothing wrong with therapy. If you need it, be healthy. Seek therapy, seek friendship, seek coaching.
Yeah.
Life coaching, mentorship. If you don't know what to do, seek therapy, seek coaching, seek mentorship as men and people. But for the men out there that are lonely, it's okay.
Yeah.
A lot of us are lonely, and those moments of loneliness, they don't go away permanently. They always come back. We're human. They're supposed to come back. They always teach us something. Pay attention to those pockets of loneliness.
Yeah, absolutely. That loneliness is something, and realizing it too. I think people don't hold themselves accountable to that feeling that they get when they're lonely. They would rather just ignore it, push it to the side. And there's a lot of ways you can do that. There's a lot of small, convenient distractions you can fill your life with that are all in all just going to hinder you, and they're going to affect your self-growth.
Be cautious. You spoke about the social battery.
Mm-hmm.
Dang, I wonder if the mic picked that up. Oh,
Probably
man.
got it a little bit.
Yeah, probably got it a little bit. Yeah. Be cautious of your social batteries so that you do not isolate yourself in all the wrong ways.
And also give your friends grace with their social battery as well. Everyone's different, everyone varies. So to hold them to the same standard as you hold yourself can seem equal, but is really hypocritical just because they may not have that same amount of energy as you, or they may have more energy than you.
Have you ever felt lonely starting a new job?
Absolutely. It's just the not knowing people, the nervousness of that. You feel like you're on your own little planet until
Same thing
you're
with starting at a new school or
yeah.
starting college.
It's the same everywhere. It's the
You're
same
you're
starting
looking,
anything new.
hiding and looking around like, oh.
But a big part of that too can be if you're feeling lonely and you're going out and you're doing community programs or you're doing taking a baking class or something like that, you're gonna feel nervous. You're gonna feel lonely on that first day.
Yeah,
But
it's
that
normal. It's supposed
extreme
to be like that.
loneliness,
Yeah.
I think, is the first step to starting to feel welcomed and to start introducing a new chapter of your life where you're learning something new about yourself and about other people.
Mm.
So embrace that.
Moving to a new place, I could speak from personal experience. It is it's a new thing to tackle. It's something that not only brought loneliness, it brought excitement. It brought moving to a new place that like I didn't know anyone. I didn't when I moved up here. Didn't know anyone. I was excited and lonely at the same time. I was away from my people and slowly finding them and whatnot, but different things. That's why loneliness has so many avenues that it comes from. It could come from any avenue.
So, I'm sorry, I got a
Go for
question
it.
for you. When you moved here not knowing anybody. What types of things did you do in order to establish
Oh
a
man, I went
social
out.
connection?
I didn't go. I went out to different coffee shops. I was looking for museums. I was looking for social places. I actually went out and made that effort of going out there and just saying hello to somebody
It's
and
about
making
the
those
effort.
connections. Yeah,
Yeah.
the gym, things of that nature. I actually went out and I sought out those things.
Yeah.
And I knew that it's a hard thing to do to admit like, hey, I'm lonely. It's such a convoluted conversation
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
that. But I was like, you know what? I'm lonely, and I am going to do something about it.
That's one thing we didn't
A
really
lot of
touch
people,
on
yeah,
either.
a
The
lot of
gym.
people go for it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that was one thing we didn't really touch on was the gym and how feeling lonely and feeling isolated and the feelings that come with that. Sometimes one thing that'll help is physical fitness, having that
Yes.
physical activity to burn some energy and to help yourself kind of get it. Well, first off, it's a social thing where you're out with a group of people. You don't need to be doing the same exercise as them, but you're still with people, and that in itself helps with loneliness. And you're also exercising, which is helping you, and it's helping stimulate your brain, and all of that is going to help with the anxiety, the depression that can come along with it. And I think are the big punchers with loneliness, if you'd say it like that.
How does your friend group support your loneliness? How do they help?
Yeah. So I would say it depends. I have a couple of different friend groups. You being in one of them, I'd say it's checking on people, holding people accountable to things, and just like even just saying hi, checking on them, seeing how they're doing, seeing how their day's going, is so huge for not feeling lonely. Even the small act of, like you were saying earlier, if he has something that he wants to ask about or he has a question about, him asking me a question like that, and then there's a social interaction there, and you're feeling recognized and valued as well. So I think that's a big part of it.
You ready for this one?
Yeah.
Chasing vices when you're lonely.
It's so easy and it's so common. It's something I've struggled with.
Yeah, using vices to fill that void. Whether it's women, whether it's men, if you're a woman out there, whether it's drinking, alcohol, smoking.
Yeah.
We can even say vapes. Can we say vapes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff
Okay.
to keep you
Yeah.
distracted, stuff to keep you from truly feeling how you not should be feeling, but how your body wants you to feel in that moment, something for you to work through. You're pushing away a challenge in your
Not
life.
being yes, not being able to work yourself through those moments and regulate yourself during those moments. We chase vices. I've gotten to a point. I remember I did have points. I don't know if you can relate, but I did have points where I think I would have like a pocket of loneliness. It lasted like a week, and I was like, okay, I got to drink to avoid this. So I would go out.
Yeah, because it's the loneliness that comes along with it too, is the negative thoughts and the feeling, the self feelings, like how you feel about yourself. The all of that can be affected, and I think that people see drinking as, oh, that's an easy out because you don't really have to think about anything. Then you're just having a good time.
Yes. Would you say loneliness is it's letting yourself know that something is missing or something is going on and we need to figure it out?
I'd say acknowledging it is.
No, I mean what loneliness is.
Oh, do I
Like,
think it is something is missing?
yeah, something's missing, something we need to figure out, something's going on, and we need to figure it out.
I think, yeah, it can be.
So
I
we
think,
replace it.
yeah, it can be, but the thing is, that can umbrella over so much. It can be something missing, like literally missing something,
Yeah,
something
no,
missing in your life. It could be something spiritually that you're missing. It could be something emotionally. It could be something socially. Or it
it
could be
comes from so many
something,
different places.
yeah, it could
Yeah,
be from yourself that you're
there you
missing
go.
something within yourself, like
And
that.
don't replace it with. Sorry, I keep
No,
interrupting you. Go ahead.
like that. The like you said, the social interaction, feeling lonely in that situation. I think that's when you're realizing that you're missing something within yourself that your body is yearning for. You know, your body wants that connection with other people where you're able to connect on a deeper level. So you feel that loneliness because you're missing something, but it's not like a literal thing. You know.
Yes, and then we replace it with our vices,
Mm-hmm.
and we get consumed with those vices. It could take us a long way. It could be a dark hole.
It doesn't work for long, and if it does work for long, then it leads to you having a problem.
Bigger problem.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it affects other things within your life.
When people will be bouncing everywhere with this loneliness thing because it's such a
Yeah.
huge topic.
It's,
Social media. I really want to talk more about comparing ourselves to others, and we do. We create. We're all kind of. We're victims and suspects of it all. We put the bright life on social media, all the great things and whatnot. It's kind of hard to put the bad moments on there without them being judged, and it gets pretty bad. We compare. I used to do it. I used to compare it. Oh man, now I just don't care. I know everybody. Now that I know everybody has issues, everybody has problems. We all get depressed sometimes, sad, lonely, and it's just a part of being a complete human. It doesn't bother me anymore. Social media is not really a thing for me.
yeah,
I learned how to use it for this in general, but it's not. It doesn't do that to me anymore, man. But it used, man.